Get a good look at it while it's stationary on the track.
Well, we've seen a bit of head shaking down there at Ferrari already today, more so in this morning session. Still plenty of running still to come. Probably a good time to go through the running order that we've had in terms of lap times, with Max Verstappen stuck in the garage even when we were under green flag conditions. The fastest driver at the moment with a 1:17.6, and this would seem like a pretty good time for Rosanna to take us on a tour of the Mercedes motorhome. We can go to her now in the paddock.
Going behind the scenes at Mercedes today to see what goes on inside their motorhome, and it's a little bit different to what we normally see at the races, so I'm going to need a guide to take me around, and today my host is Stefan. Stefan, sorry to interrupt you. How are you?
Hello, very well, thank you. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Well, very good to see you, to come and have a little look inside the Mercedes motorhome. I was just saying it's a bit different to what we normally see at the races. Where's this one come from?
Well, this unit comes from the DTM. We formerly used it for the DTM racings. We use it now for the testing. It will do its job here because the current unit is under reconstruction a little bit to be nice and bright and shiny for the 2020 season.
Love it, making sure everything is ready for the upcoming season.
Yeah.
So we've got the coffee bar here, some delicious croissant here, so people can come in and grab a coffee and sit down and enjoy the atmosphere.
Yeah, basically this is the living room of all the team, the engineers, the mechanics, the boys we say, and as well on top it's an open door for all the media people. Yeah? On top we have a lot of VIPs, sponsors, partners around. Also on the first floor we might go up later and I show you around.
That would be great, yes please.
Yeah.
And we've got space for people to have their breakfast, their lunch, their dinner. Are they having all the meals here?
They're having all the meals here, so we start quite early in the morning. Breakfast starts by around 7 o'clock. It goes on by the lunch by 12 and then dinner by 7:30ish. Also late, we have a night shift, so there's a night meal at midnight, so around the clock it's open.
And I saw an amazing video on the team's social media of you guys preparing breakfast late afternoon, because when the mechanics and team come in for that night shift, they expect breakfast.
Yes, they expect breakfast, so they try to sleep all day, wake up, come in here, and we do a proper English breakfast for them.
Wow, your chefs must be working around the clock as well.
Well, it's long days at the testing, but I think for everybody as well, for the boys. So I think we just try to fulfill all their wishes and dreams and be here around the clock for them and try to keep them rolling.
Well, you mentioned a lovely terrace. I think we should go up and have a little look, especially in this beautiful weather.
Yes, let's go. Come on.
So up we go to this lovely roof terrace. Glorious sunshine in Barcelona. What a way to watch the action.
Yes, actually, we just can't wait to see the sun coming up behind the grandstand. Brings a little bit more life in all this action up here, yeah.
And who's up here then?
Well, who's up here? We're hosting partners, VIPs, invited guests by Mercedes, and try to give them the best experience they ever had.
Well, it's absolutely magnificent. More seating inside. We've got, hang on, a table football. Look at this. Have we had a few matches on this over the course of testing?
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
Well, that's a good question.
And it will remain a secret.
Yeah,
but what fun to have another activity to do while you're up here enjoying all the action.
Well, you can enjoy the lovely food we serve throughout the whole day, cold drinks. There are a lot of tours throughout the garage to the grandstands, and so there's a lot to see, actually.
How amazing. It's lovely, lovely sofa area as well, so you can sit and relax. We've got special people explaining what's going on as well. More coffee inside too. I think I might have to stick around.
Let's do it. Yeah, you're highly welcome, anytime.
Well, thank you so much, Stefan, for being our host today. What a wonderful place you've got for your guests.
Thank you very much.
That's a lovely insight there from Rosanna, and I'm very happy to say that Laura's joined us up in the comms box. It's been a good start to the day, hasn't it? What's the vibe down in the pit lane and paddock?
I've only been in the paddock so far. Hello, by the way.
Hello.
Thanks for having me in
You're
once
so
again.
welcome.
The paddock, though, once again, it's buzzing. It's just the sun's shining. The fans are in force as well, and I think they're getting a real taste of the action ahead of the 2020 season. I had a good chat with Mario Isola from Pirelli as well about obviously the effects of DAS on tyres, tyre strategy, looking at Mercedes, and he sort of said, we'll work with them, but it's on them. This is on them. This is all Mercedes, which is true. He also we talked about Ferrari testing the 18-inch for 2021 as well, and he said that he's had very good feedback on that through all aspects, from steering, from handling, stability to actually tyre strategy, tyre management too. So they've been working very, very hard ahead of 2021. And the final changes needing to be made before that next season.
Yeah, because of course they've got to lock down the parameters on that very, very soon. And it's so difficult because they don't have really an adequate mule car that will completely replicate the downforce, the speeds of what we expect that 2021 car to be. Because we don't even have the final specs of what the 2021 car will be yet.
I know, it's all unknown, isn't it? Which makes it exciting for all of us. We see the intrigue and the controversy around the Mercedes steering system.
Yes.
Now we're going to look at it for a whole brand new car and spec for next year as well. It's going to be an exciting testing next year, isn't it?
No, it really is. It really, really is. And of course, with brand new cars, with brand new regulations, every chance that we will get many more of these red flags for Sebastian Vettel, the first proper red flag of the first 3 days of pre-season testing in 2020. Of course, we had a red flag last night for Kimi Raikkonen, but that was just a standard Alfa Romeo / Sauber running out of fuel job that they do every test at the end of the day, just to see where the limit lies. But that definitely an unintentional ending to Sebastian Vettel's morning. We also saw Max Verstappen running across the curbs, damage to his car. And into the garage for him. A 117.636 though puts him top of the pile. And while Rosanna was looking around the motorhomes down there, you've been around the paddock all day. It's fair to say I think there's been a bit more, I don't want to say effort, but certainly the normal race motorhomes here this week, as opposed to normally you'd have sort of temporary homes for the teams.
I can only go off what I saw in Belgium, which was the one Grand Prix I worked last year. And I mean, I was in awe of the scale of it. I was like wide-eyed looking around thinking, this is the most insane fairyland world I've just walked into. It's like a theme park for adults. It's absolutely ridiculous. And again, the scale of this is huge. I was told, there'll be some awnings, some tents and so on, and I'm looking around going, this is luxury.
It's huge, isn't it?
Compared to a car park at a bike race, this is luxury, let me tell you.
No, it's amazing, and they have. They've about half the teams I think have brought their actual race motorhomes with them here this week, I should say, which is great to see. One of the drivers are kind of in their comfortable place, in their happy places, and that's important for them as well. We were saying earlier that for the fans, actually, it's great as well, because the paddock feels more like the race weekend paddock, and it's much easier to get in, to get around, to get access to see the drivers. Obviously, Charles Leclerc yesterday, after he finished his morning run in the car, always takes time for the fans. Doesn't run past them. Doesn't try and just sign one and then make that laborious process of a signature last the entire way back, so he only has to do the one. Signing for everybody, stopping for photos. Alain Prost as well doing the same thing yesterday. But good to see Charles, as one of the younger guys, actually taking the time with the fans. Yeah,
and engaging and embracing the chance to do so. I've seen a few of the drivers doing that. Valtteri Bottas as well is in and out of Mercedes, and he's stopping for photos and signing stuff. I had walked with Albon on day one, and he was tailed by a load of fans, and he had to go straight into a photo shoot, so he couldn't stop and sign, unfortunately, but I'm sure that he came back out to do so. And it's funny, when a driver does come out, they are immediately mobbed. Swarmed. Yeah. It's mad. When you're in the centre of that, you're going, oh my God.
I'll tell you who was the most popular guy in the paddock over the last 2 days for autographs. Gunther Steiner.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Gunther's hugely popular, I think, because of Drive to Survive last year and all of that. He's become a bit of a cult hero, and everybody wants, and he doesn't get it because he hasn't seen it.
Right.
Hasn't watched it, won't watch it. But somebody last year brought him a swear jar and all these sort of funny things, and he's just become an absolute hero. And
cult hero, I love
everybody wants a photo with Gunther. Everybody, and it's funny because when you go abroad and you meet people, it's like, they want to know what the driver's like. But the big question people always ask is, what's Gunther like? Does he really swear that much? And you say Gunther's great. You know, Gunther's one of a kind. But yeah, cult hero is Gunther. Folks can come along to week 2 of testing, of course, taking place next week. Same days as this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And as we were discussing with Ted Kravitz yesterday, because the normal sort of tech conference, the mobile conference that happens in Barcelona every year has been cancelled over sort of coronavirus and people not being able to make it over, there are a plethora of really nice hotel rooms in town going for a song because the hotels have had all these cancellations.
Really?
They need to get rid of their rooms.
Wow.
Apparently, a weekend break to Barcelona right now is cheap as chips. So
Come and join us.
come and join us for testing next
Take
week.
the time off work.
The weather's
It's worth
glorious.
It is glorious out
It's
there.
a great opportunity to see the cars, to come into the paddock, to meet your heroes and get a picture with Gunther.
Absolutely.
It's-
It's chilly in the mornings, wrap up, but after that, when the sun comes out, especially if you're British, get those arms out, get the tan lines going.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Speaking of fans, though, actually, I did an interview with Robert Kubica up on the roof here, and opposite we had all of the Polish fans suddenly came with a banner. It was as though we'd arranged it, but I absolutely swear we didn't. And they were chanting, Robert, Robert, and just opposite where we were. And there were a big group of them with their flags and banners and showing their support. So there are fans here, and they are loving it.
Yeah, they are. It's the Max fans. Which go everywhere. Max Verstappen banners wherever you look. There's lots of Carlos Sainz banners down that end, as one would imagine. And it's great. I always love winter testing. It's always one of my favourite times of the year. I remember my very first job when I started at Formula One magazine back at the tail end of 2002 was going to winter testing at Valencia, and I've always just found it's such fun.
Yeah.
And it's quite chilled, it's quite relaxed, and it's just a lovely way to start the year in this sort of cold Spanish winter. It's lovely. I used to fall asleep in the grandstands with the and that was in the days of the screaming engines, you know, the V10s, and I loved it, absolutely adore it. But there is just that lovely kind of start of the year, first day back at school. It's good vibes.
I'm the new girl at school this year, but I'm loving it. I've got to say, the extended coverage we're seeing as well. Imagine if we weren't filming this, nobody but the Mercedes garage would have any idea of the innovations.
Well, this is it.
And the fact that we've got this on-board coverage, we've got wall-to-wall footage of every lap, every run here. We're seeing so much insight into what has been going on over the winter. Clearly, Mercedes having a very busy winter indeed, which I think is brilliant and gives it that race feel, doesn't it?
It does, indeed. Now, I believe that as the Ferrari SF1000 is finally started to be brought back to the pits, and we have a time for the session to restart at 10:55, Rosanna Tennant may be able to give us a reason as to why, Rosanna, it has taken so long to get this Ferrari back.
Hi Will, hi Laura. Yeah, I was just having a chat with a few people down here who are speculating that it might be an electrical issue, and that's why it's taken so long to get the car back. Obviously it wouldn't be safe to touch, so that's a potential reason that it came to a halt, but obviously we'll bring you more when we find out, and of course when it does get back here then we'll be able to find out exactly what happened. But it's just a chance for people to have a bit of chat. We've got lots of people outside the Ferrari garage, all the mechanics waiting to receive the car, a few photographers and cameramen, people outside the Renault garage. It's almost just a little bit of a lull, people able to wander up and down the pit lane. Just saw Joe Bauer, technical director for the FIA. He said it was a nice chance for him to get out and see all the cars in the garages. I think he's been in his office, so it's providing a little chance for people to take a breather and to catch up with people as well, because of course it's been a long winter break, hasn't it?
Yes, indeed. That's a good thing with testing as well, isn't it? It's getting to see everybody again, find out what everyone's been doing over the winter. And here are the replays then of Sebastian Vettel coming to a halt through turn 9 and down the back stretch, and that's where the power cut out. I can't actually see too much on the steering wheel given the low level of the sun shining against it. Maybe we'll see it on the rise up the hill here. Third gear. Was he stuck in third? Yeah, doesn't... Was he? Couldn't quite see. Into neutral. He's looking at the back. I wonder if it's a gearbox issue. The interesting thing was he didn't leap out of the car. Normally if there's an electrical issue with the car, he will leap out. There's also the green light on the top, which I think denotes that the car is safe to touch. There was the green light on top of the tub as well, which normally denotes to the marshals that the car is safe to touch. So I'm not 1,000% that it was electrical. But we won't know until Ferrari give us an adequate explanation, which I'm sure they will do. With Rosanna and Ted down in the pits, I'm sure we'll bring that to us as sure, easy for me to say, as soon as we know, or as they know. Yeah, seems to me like maybe a gearbox issue. But there we go. Car being brought in. Let's see how many snappers try and get underneath it to take the photo as it is hoisted up. Ferrari.
And our cameras as well, peeking underneath that cape. I'll be heading into the pits actually after this little stint in here, so
Yes,
I will
indeed
try
you will.
and get the latest info for you.
Fab.
Head to Ferrari, as I'm sure will every other member of the international media.
Indeed.
I'll get involved in the melee.
Sharpen your elbows and get in.
Oh, I love it. And the onlookers as well. Camera phones out as ever.
For that all-important photo that will be framed at home of a Ferrari under a tarpaulin. It's great though. It's really wonderful how close everyone can get here at testing. You normally don't get into those boxes unless you've paid thousands and thousands for sort of exclusive access on the race weekend. 10:55 then. The light is green. The session is go. And first out on track, Latifi, Sainz, Giovinazzi and Esteban Ocon. Ocon doing a practice start. And he'll have to do quite a few of those. It's been a long time since he started a Grand Prix. I wonder how rusty he'll feel when he gets to Melbourne in just a few weeks' time. It's come around awfully quickly, hasn't it?
Good to see him returning, though. I'm actually quite excited to see him drive this season.
Me too.
It'll be interesting, and to drive alongside Ricciardo at Renault as well.
It's a big challenge for Ocon and for Ricciardo. Of course, Ocon and Perez came to blows in their season as teammates.
That's what I'm saying.
well,
Could it be spicy?
Well, this is the thing. Perez was asked, I can't remember if it was at the launch or actually on the early days of testing, how he was looking forward to the season and how was his relationship with Lance Stroll. And he said, I've never had an issue ever with any teammate except for one. And I wonder how much, Sergio obviously puts that all on Esteban. Esteban would say completely the opposite and put it all on Sergio. And I do wonder how that relationship with Daniel and Esteban will be, whether Esteban will try to push Daniel's buttons. And indeed, Alex and I were just talking about it earlier, and I think we were talking about it yesterday as well. The harmonious relationship that existed between Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo as teammates shows that Daniel is fine being a teammate with somebody, being friends with that teammate, but pushing them and being able to compete with them. If Esteban takes that and uses that to turn it toxic, I don't think Daniel will take too kindly to that, and may show him the back of his hand, so to speak, in the car.
Yeah, and Daniel Ricciardo as well, very quick to get up to the pace shown by Ocon as well, as soon as he took to the track, despite delays. And I know the issues that Renault are having, not overall, but it seems more so with Ricciardo's car rather than Esteban Ocon's. So it will be interesting if those two are. I mean, you can't take much from lap times here. We know they'll be doing trialling, testing different things, but it'll be interesting if they are matching each other in pace, in speed, in race pace, in lap speed. Then we could have a very interesting season on our hands between the two boys at Renault.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, obviously everybody has got the one car here this week. Renault said that unfortunately it's taken them a while to change over the pedals for Daniel and Esteban, and that was why there was a big delay the other day in the changeover, which seems an interesting excuse. It doesn't normally take that long to change the pedals over, but interesting that Daniel is finding more issues with the car when he's in it than is Esteban. Perhaps that is a rustiness on Esteban's side. Daniel maybe also Daniel's very used to the car from last year, so we'll know what he was wanting from this car, and also the foibles of last year's car, if they are returning to this year's, things that he wants to nip in the bud early before they sort of raise their head again.
So more finely tuned to the car,
and the
feeling of
and
it.
Also it takes a while to get to know the boys and girls in the garage, to be able to give that feedback, to know where it's going, to direct it to the right place. Of course, Esteban was let out of his Mercedes contract slightly early and went to work with Renault at the tail end of last year. But a couple of days in Abu Dhabi is not a year of racing and testing as Daniel's got.
No, and Daniel Ricciardo also pre-season as well, saying that they're going to try to do team bonding away from the track. Have you seen this? He wants to unite the garage, and he feels that there was some disengagement within the team last season, so he wants to do some team bonding away from the track, which I think is a really brilliant thing. I think that will unite a team, and that will allow
what are they going to do? Like, go paintballing, or?
He said he wanted to see people sweat. I think I don't know what they're going to be doing, whether it's like a Tough Mudder type thing, or
that'd be fun,
wouldn't it? I think it'd be good. Those team bonding exercises when you've all got to walk on planks next to each other or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. If I see him,
like
I'll
a kind
ask
of
him.
Takeshi's Castle type.
Absolutely.
Thing.
Yeah.
Or what was the Ultimate Wipeout? Because you can go do those kind of things, can't you? With
I remember
the
doing
mud
one for my 12th birthday. I loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was called The Quest. It was brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Sounds very. Why didn't I do that for my 12th birthday?
It was great.
That sounds great fun. That sounds useful. Actually, my 12th birthday was 30 odd years ago. We probably didn't have that then. Romain Grosjean out on track in the Haas. What vibe do you get down at Haas this week? Because we could look at the times, but as we always say, you've got to look at body language. You've got to look at how the drivers are carrying themselves, what people are saying, how they're looking. Is it smiles? Is it frustrations? That's all you can really pick out in testing.
The mood. I haven't spoken specifically to the drivers. I haven't actually seen them in person. I've seen a few of the drivers down there, but not those two. There's a general. I mean, when Grosjean span yesterday, there was a sort of okay.
Yeah.
There's maybe a low to medium vibration. There's not a high vibration going on.
Yeah.
But if they are simply running through that checklist at the moment and running at that reduced speed and simply getting what they need to done, then perhaps we won't see sparks flying until next week. Maybe that's to be expected.
Yes. Let's hope. Let's hope.
If they were 41 kilometres an hour slower than everybody else yesterday.
I didn't see that stat. Interesting.
Which is
well,
much.
They must have been in low power mode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's
absolutely. They would have had the power unit down. We will yet to see them sort of unleash full potential, shall we say.
Let's say that. Let's say that. As he comes through then, Grosjean through the final corner and down to the line. It's a 120.034 for him. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas is thumping around. 21.9 sector 1, his personal best. 28.5 middle sector. Into the final sector now for Valtteri Bottas, a 1:16.952, slightly slower through the third and final sector. Means he does not improve that lap time. Laura, you're off to the pit lane now.
I'm going to go and find out what's happening at Ferrari.
Lovely. Well, thanks for dropping in.
No, thank you very much for having me as ever.
And we'll see you in a little bit.
See you.
Magic. I'm joined then by Alex once again. Hello, mate.
Went and stood in the sun.
How is it out there?
It's warming up out there.
Good.
And once again, lots of laps being completed. That is a terrific time for Valtteri Bottas, isn't it? 1:16.8.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you've got Verstappen 17.6, Stroll 17.6, Ocon 17.7. You can see very, very impressive in that final sector with the 26.1. And they've been impressive in that final sector all test long.
Yeah, they have. And, we saw the AlphaTauri coming through, and sector 1, best, sector 2, best, 10th of a second up through the final sector, wallop, half a second, and...
that Combox cam is in use again.
And there he is. Yeah. So,
have you ever had this before? I've never had a Combox cam before, and I'm not entirely comfortable with it yet.
I'm fine with it.
Oh,
okay,
yeah, you're just posing. You're posing again. Standard standard stuff. Also, what do you
see, now
talk-
they'll know not to cut to us.
Yeah, that's it for the rest of the day. What did you talk about in the 15 minutes I was gone? The hashtag F1 inbox has completely kicked off.
Oh, right. What were we talking about?
Team bonding exercises?
Yes. So Laura was talking about apparently there's team bonding exercises are going to happen, and she did a really fun one on her 12th birthday. Those kind of places you can go to that's a bit like Takeshi's Castle or a bit like Ultimate Wipeout, those kind of things. But she was suggesting a Tough Mudder might be a good team bonding exercise for the F1 teams to take, get a bit physical, and I agree, I think it'd be really good.
Quite a lot of exercise.
Well, there were a lot of team bonding exercises, of course, in Japan last year when Saturday was cancelled. A bunch of the guys went off and went bowling together or whatever, and basically hunkered down
and the pub.
Yes, well, we went to the Family Mart just down the road from our hotel and bought all of the food that we could find, and we spent most of Saturday trying to discover what all this food was. It was sort of try this weird gelatinous thing and I don't much like that, and then try this other weird sort of pastry. Oh, that's quite delicious actually. And the amazing thing about Japan is the 2 slices of bread that have been sealed, no crusts, but sealed around the edges like a plastic bag, and then just filled with jam in the middle. It's a jam sandwich. Yeah. Stroll on his lap right now. It's not the fastest lap he's done, but I mean, if you watch how aggressive he's being, he's really hammering that.
Soaring away, isn't it?
Look at his right fingers. He's giving it a right old smack every time he's changing gear. Just give it a little look. Bosh. Backed off. But he's really hammering it.
Yeah.
Absolutely hammering it. I wonder, I can't remember what Racing Point steering wheel was like last year. I wonder if they've got a Mercedes steering wheel this year, and if the panels are a little bit stiffer than he's used to, and he's having to really give it a good smack.
You usually go through all of that, don't they?
They do. Now, as we would...
before we get to this stage.
Well, as we were watching the steering wheel on that Racing Point car, Otmar Safnauer has just been talking to our guys over on F1.com, and my colleague Samarth Kanal has sent me a message to say Otmar reckons DAS is technically legal, but it's also legal to buy from Mercedes. It's one of those things that they could buy off the shelf if they wanted to.
Okay.
But they won't be buying it. He calls it a clever piece of ingenuity.
So why wouldn't he want it? If it is, come on, they've already taken enough heat this week already. They're going to take a lot of heat if they're 4th and 5th in Melbourne or better. You'd want it, wouldn't you? I'd want it.
As we were saying at the start of the day, imagine if Racing Point, suddenly their steering wheel starts popping in and out. Everyone's going to go, what is going on? Referee, yellow card.
The whole pit lane, arms outstretched,
up in arms,
pointing at it.
Which Otmar says it's legal to buy it. And then, you just don't want to cause that kind of controversy.
Stirring of the pot.
Anyway, so Otmar reckons it's legal to buy. But they might not be doing so. I mean, I think that shows that teams are already debating whether or not, even if it's legal to buy, is it even worth it? Is it worth the extra aggro? And I think that's a fair question.
Interesting. I think it is. It could be one of those testing things that you see every once in a while. Then it could be out. Just gone over the line with a 1:17.9. His best lap of the day so far. Good enough for 5th. And that was his 27th that he has logged today. So we are following the Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi. Not a huge amount of laps. First day of running, Alfa Romeo did under 100. So they were on the back foot.
That's rubbish, that isn't it?
Well, it is by new standards, Will. It is by 2020 standards. So he is hopefully, from Alpha's point of view, getting up and running and getting into the traditional range of laps that we've seen so far. The high standards that have been set so far. He's doing all of the running today in the Alfa Romeo. Max Verstappen still not been out since that run over the curbs. in a while now. Alex Albon coming in that car this afternoon. Lance Stroll has his racing points all day. Kevin Magnussen, you saw him in the back of the garage a few moments ago. He is jumping in the car after the lunch break, as is Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly.
F1 Inbox. Hashtag
Hashtag.
F1 Inbox.
Yes.
Schnitzel. Sounds like schnitzel.
Yes.
Is Williams Racing the only team with 2 cars at this test? One for Latifi, one for Russell. Saw that during the Claire Williams interview on Wednesday. And on Latifi's Instagram garage tour yesterday. I have to say I noticed that too. I believe they may be. Great job.
Super
Williams.
job.
You know, you think they didn't even have a car for the first couple of days of
Could
testing
be
last
more
year.
of a contrast.
They've got 2 this year, so cracking job.
Good for
there.
Latifi as well,
Yeah.
as the only rookie in the field this year. Only 6 days to get up to speed. Alex Albon saying he would have wanted slightly more than that. He said he wouldn't have been ready after day 6 of testing last
exactly.
year. So big task for Nicholas Latifi, but he has had a lot of running in FP1 and plus had 11 of those.
Yes, he
in the
has.
test.
Yes, he has. Haas have 2 cars here, but one of them's last year's car, and they're just using that for pit stop practice. Renault too, I think, have got last year's car. They've just got that display outside the garage. Haas doing a lot of pit stop practice after, of course, the problems in Australia 2 years ago, which of course they wouldn't have repeated, and then it all went to hell again in Australia last year. So
Do not want the 3-peat on that. Daniel Kvyat was absolutely on the ragged edge in the middle part of that lap, and now he has backed out. But he was really close to the same curve that Max Verstappen hit earlier on and caused grief for the senior team. This is the moment a few seconds ago, and it's deep into the green. You do not want to be there. And let's have a look at whether he did indeed make contact with the sausage curb, close to the gravel, and he knew it was there, ducked out of it. And thankfully for AlphaTauri, managed to escape. He has 28 laps on the board, personal best on that last run, under 2 hours to go. He has gone round again. Lee Morley says to hashtag F1 Inbox, team bonding exercises are usually invented by poor managers who then find a reason not to take part themselves. Sounds like Lee has been stung by a poor team bonding day.
or maybe too many of them.
He can't take it. He can't take any more of them. Alex has used the hashtag F1 Inbox. Combox Cam comes on. Apparently his mum said, are they twins? So you can take that in a positive way or a negative way, Will.
I'll take that in a positive way, as I believe you're much younger than me.
I am, but we're not much, but there we are. Thank you for sending that in. Questions, statements, observations, anything you like to hashtag F1 Inbox.
Oh, I like that. That's always a nice question.
Ben Lim says, who do you think will be the biggest surprise of the season? Many of you have asked that, so we haven't had a chance to get to that. Well, right now...
It's day 3, isn't it? It's so difficult to say as Valtteri goes purple, middle sector.
And there are so many questions about the prediction about the order, and it is worth saying that we're not against a prediction. It's just right now it would be very, very early in proceedings to come up with one. Bottas is going to come over the line, and it's the fastest lap of the
16.6
day so far. Purple overall, and in the middle sector, no personal best from him in the first and final sector of the lap. 1:16.674 on lap 27 of his morning.
I would like to say I hope Williams will be the surprise of the year.
Yeah, nice sentiment, and I think many in the paddock would agree with that.
I just want them to regain some self-respect, and imagine we get to Australia, Williams puts it straight into Q2. That would, just for starters,
catharsis as well for the team.
huge. It would be so big for them, and then to be up fighting around the points, whether they achieve the points or not. I think just to be there and in the fight and being competitive. Not only is that, what I think would be a bigger surprise, but I think would be, as you say, a catharsis, and I think would be a really good news, happy story for Formula One in the first race.
Surprise of the season. Just a note, as you'll have seen from the graphic, fastest lap of 2020 so far for Valtteri Bottas, fastest lap that we've seen in
Goodness,
testing
you're right.
this year. That is very Well, it's stark right now.
It's a whopping 1 second.
The good news is, if you're a fan of a title battle, that it is very much because Max Verstappen has been stuck in the pits for a while. Surprise of the season. You know what I'd love to see is the surprise of the season: Alex Albon closing down that gap to Max Verstappen.
Yes.
But some people are sceptical of it at the moment.
So that might be a surprise to them, but would it be a surprise to you?
Not at all.
Because you know how good he is.
Well, it's...
I'm going to check the G-tray just to make sure I hit the curb in Devon.
So curb issue yesterday for Daniel Ricciardo, curb issue being reported on the radio for Esteban Ocon, and we'll see... Where is he? He's back in the pits? Yes, he is. So, 45, that's to his name. Bottas going once again.
He's hooking this up, isn't he?
And this is great. Now we're in business. Now we're in business. You never know the fuel levels. You never know where the power unit is at, but it looks pretty. Well, it looked pretty good until there. He's on the limit now. Didn't have an improvement through the final sector last time. We'll need that to take the time further away from the rest of the field. The fiddly chicane at the end of the lap. How much is he going to push on the exit? This is always entertaining to see trackside. If you are ever coming to Formula 1 testing, looks neat, looks tidy. Is it good enough as he guns it across the line? No. Gave it the big build-up, and it wasn't enough. Alex Albon in Formula 2 was absolutely fascinating, to go back to that point, and you know this. A year ago, he hadn't even sat in a Formula 1 car. It's his first running at the start, and he was remarking about, just getting used to the high speed of it, which is one of the most refreshing quotes I've ever heard from a Formula 1 driver. Go back a year further, and we're standing talking in this paddock about he might not be able to get to the end of the Formula 2 season. The Formula 2 season that brings him into Formula 1. And the reason that I think he has got this, he wears the pressure that this sport brings so lightly, is because it was very unlikely that he was ever going to get here at all, let alone into race-winning machinery, and took a while to build up. There's a driver with confidence there, but you know this really well, because all the drivers talked about it. He was the man in karting. He was the one that this current generation that are coming through and have now got a season under their belts, Norris and Russell. They, as Renault, inspect the curb damage, or possible curb damage, for course of the car on the floor there. But Alex
was the poster boy.
Raw, he quite literally was.
He was literally the poster boy. They had posters of him on their wall. They all looked up to him.
There is an enormous well of talent there, and if question marks exist, and I'm not sure they do after just a rookie season,
I mean,
if that talent is exploited,
the interesting thing with
at the moment, that is so innocuous if that's what's caused it.
The interesting thing with Albon was, you spoke to him last year, and there was this wide-eyed, almost disbelief that he was in Formula 1, first at Toro Rosso, then at Red Bull. But I talked to him last night. Very different, Alex. Very different.
Yeah.
And I said to him, so, bit of a delayed start to the morning, and he just said, just getting back in the car and getting fitted in. You know what it's like over the winter. You go training, you build up your body a little bit, you get in the car, and it doesn't quite fit the same. And I said, I feel like you've got slightly broader shoulders this year. And he has. He's got that. He's not the shy, almost embarrassed to be there, Alex.
I think
he's
that's a fair
found his
observation.
place, and we hope, as we were saying, he's got to bring that. He's got to bring that confidence. He can't be deferential. He's got to be forthright, strong, purposeful, taking the fight to Max Verstappen. Talking about strong, forthright, and purposeful. Ted Kravitz is here.
He has indeed.
Have you got me?
We have.
We have, loud and clear, Ted.
Sorry I'm late.
That's all right.
That's all right.
We weren't going to mention it.
Viewers at home won't know this, but
Behind the scenes.
I was meant to be here about 19 minutes ago.
That's okay.
But guess what I was doing?
Were you trying to find out why Seb had stopped?
No, I was doing a DAS explainer.
Ah, nice.
For wearing my other hat.
Cool.
There we are. Hello.
Back once again.
Should have put my
the proof that Ted has turned up.
should have put my shirt on. The magic of television. So yes, we had a couple of tyres, and I was doing a pretend Formula One car
This is the best
With a
use of
couple of-
Comcam so far
with a
this
couple
week.
of tyres
Do you want?
here,
Have you got a wheel?
and explaining
Hold
why
the wheel,
they tow them,
and I'll hold your mic.
why they tow them out, the tyres out. Can't really see it. Why they tow it out, and then why it's towed in, and for what benefit.
You might want to do it directly to the camera.
Well, let's not
Come-
ruin the magic for the piece that's going to come out on.
Oh, yes, everyone can watch that.
It was
Everyone can watch that.
It was a
It's better-
trailer for
but
the
is it
feature
only
later on.
exclusive for the others?
No. It'll be freely available on the socials, as they call it.
For the others.
On
On the socials.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, we were
But,
saying
yes, sorry, what were you-
it's French fries pizza. You know, like on skiing, French fries pizza.
Yes. I mean, we're not talking much toe out, are we? We're talking what, a degree and a half?
Yeah, I mean,
A couple of degrees, and then is that your pizza or your French fries?
pizza.
Pizza,
French fries.
French fries, right? I see what you mean. Yeah. So tires out like that. You can imagine, why they do it, because when you brake, those tires are going to go. They're going to go in anyway, and at that moment that you brake, you want that balance between the rear. Why are you laughing? The rear tires and the front tires, and it just gives a nice feeling. If they were all set up with a toe like that, and then when you braked, it went in like that, you'd be all over the shop behind you. So
Yeah.
that's why.
And you can see if it lines up as you've basically acted out the video you've done. And you've
part
broken
of it.
will.
Part
You've
of it.
broken will.
Well, we can all get.
And you
Some
thought there was no
cabin
use
fever
for
down here,
Combox
can't we?
Cam.
Hey, that's right.
Skeptical lot.
So just explaining what TOE. It's difficult in the lexicon, the F1 lexicon, isn't it? Because the A to Z of Formula One could be TOW for tow.
Yep.
Which is obviously when you pick up an aerodynamic tow from somebody in front of you, which we talk about quite a lot, depending on circuit, Monza, Baku, Canada, arguably. And then there's TOE of the tyres. But hey, as I keep saying, we have the most informed and intelligent viewership in the world of any sport, I like to think.
We do.
Instead of, apart from kabaddi, of course.
Kabaddi.
Do you remember the sport, kabaddi?
Now, yes. Now, I was watching that. Where were we? We watched that, Malaysia. It was on the TV.
Was it?
Brilliant
Cool,
sport.
Yeah. They'll know the difference between TOE and TOW. So,
Well-
having done that for the last 15, 20 minutes or so, what has been catching your attention is, Alex, are you going to leave your computer so we can get the
inbox.
tweets on hashtag F1 inbox?
I'm going
I feel like we didn't answer enough questions yesterday, Will. We were
Yes,
were
no,
discussing
very
stuff.
true,
Maybe
very
we
true.
should do a bit more of that.
Now, we've just had a message through. Sylvia at Ferrari
Yep.
has told us the exact cause is an engine problem, the specifics of which we will investigate back in Maranello. So Ferrari are now fitting a new power unit to Sebastian's car. They will be back on track in the afternoon. No more running for Ferrari this morning.
So, how will that affect the Seb face?
Well,
40 laps, screens up, power unit changed. I mean, it's not like they've been running the same power unit. As I understand it, Mercedes have run the same power unit. I do just need to double check that, because that was unconfirmed. We don't know how many they get through. I think they probably would have get through a couple each. But yeah, that is not ideal. But hey, it's only testing.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Alex and I were talking about this earlier when you were down in the pits. If this had happened first thing on day one, we'd all be sitting here going, it's testing, it happens, it's not ideal. But I think the fact that we'd had 17 and a half hours of perfect running for everybody, one intentional stoppage for Raikkonen, and suddenly this happens, do we make too much out of it? Do we say, oh, dear, it's a disaster, Ferrari with a nightmare?
No, of course we don't. But it does stop. What it does stop, of course, is Sebastian trying all the things he wants to try. So, and that particularly, as he was confirming yesterday, is trying the car in all sorts of ride heights, in all sorts of suspension settings, in all sorts of aero maps. Do we put, you know, a bit more wing on and then soften the car up, or do we take it off? Do we do an associated ride height change to the front wing, a stiffer bar, more angle, more flap angle? You know, there's so many different combinations that they can do. Now, of course, the computer will come up with the one they think is the best and the fastest. They'll know from their previous experience round here. Seb says he's got about 20 years worth of driving round here, that he'll know what he likes. You know, I like this kind of thing round here. I think we'll have a bit of that. That's worked for me well from the past. But you don't know with this car. Seb doesn't know. If he needs to prove that this car has such a wider working range of setups that's going to help him particularly, then he needs to prove that. But he didn't sound too convinced about that yesterday.
It was Charles was making that point, wasn't it? And does Charles need a more malleable car?
I don't think so. I think it was Seb who had the.
We're just looking at the turning vanes here on the Ferrari. That's the SF90.
That's going to grow. That's going to grow to a massive kind of, you know, vented plank of carbon fibre.
You just see the amount of development that's gone on.
It does when you take it off. You see the K of Kaspersky. When you take the nose off, it leaves these two very sharp prongs of carbon fibre, sort of
almost horn
needles, horns, sticking out. That eventually, at some point, a mechanic is going to have his trousers snagged by it, or break it off. They might put those little sort of corks on the end of it with
hang his keys.
High vis warning flag. Do not walk into this, because to get those vented slats, we call it slats, barge boards, turning vanes. It's a turning vane, isn't it? It's a vented turning vane. To get those there and to get them so forward and integrated with the cape and everything that goes on underneath, you need these front sections that it hooks onto.
Max Verstappen, back out on track, starting a flying lap. So the issues for him, obviously, after he went over the curbs at 9 and damaged his car, he's back and circulating. Meanwhile, Lance Stroll is on an absolute belter, 21.8 first sector purple, and a 28.7 middle sector. It's a very nice lap for Lance Stroll at the moment. Could put him top of the pile, certainly within the 1 minute 16s. And on an equal footing with Valtteri Bottas, the only driver so far in those 116s. That 116.6, the quickest lap we've seen in pre-season testing so far.
I'm sure we're going to pick up the pink Mercedes, and we do. Coming around the last corner, it's
P2.
A 1:17.442.
7 tenths off in that final sector, and it is once again that final sector that Mercedes is making all the difference. We've now seen Racing Point, AlphaTauri, a bunch of cars quick as Bottas through sectors 1 and 2, but just not able to compete through that final sector. And it's where they made the difference in the Grand Prix last year.
It is. So we've seen a bit of curb damage, haven't we? And I guess that's inevitable. Verstappen this morning, I think Magnussen's had the odd bit. The Renault as well has had some curb damage, but I don't think it will affect their thought on anything to do with the setup of cars. Just one of these things that happen.
Some questions coming in on hashtag F1 inbox. Keep them coming. We've got some great ones here. Around the same thing. Ryan James Bolton wants to know, do you think McLaren will give us a surprise in Australia? And I know it's a little bit further down. I can't find it. Somebody had asked, what's the most interesting thing you've seen on the McLaren? What's the most interesting bit of tech that you've seen on the McLaren this year? Because we've not really been saying much about McLaren. They've just been kind of getting on with the programme.
The most interesting thing I've seen on the McLaren this morning is the new front wing. So we are now starting to see new bits arrive. There was a transit van that came in about an hour ago with a load of new Red Bull stuff. Don't know whether it will be fitted in time for this afternoon's session, or whether it's just to get into the system ready for Wednesday next week to start the second test. We should just underline, if you didn't see, Lance Stroll's time was on the yellow tyre, the medium C3, I believe. Solid yellow line. Correct me if I'm wrong. C3. So that was the time that he was on. Here we go, Kvyat on a soft tyre.
Oh, and he's up again.
He is. So yeah, the new front wing, fair bit of difference actually. Bit of a difference on the main plane, some difference on the angle of the top flap as well. So that's really intricate. That's impressed me. What else on the McLaren?
We had different side pods, didn't we, to the launch spec car that we saw at the start of the week?
Yes, but nothing.
There's nothing on the car that stands out that makes you say, golly, that's interesting, I haven't seen that before.
Not yet, no. Let's follow Kvyat here. So he has the car certainly this morning. They are going to change halfway through, I believe.
It's a very tidy looking lap.
Comes around the last corner. Opens the DRS.
And it's only P2.
Takes P2 off Stroll with a lap 0.02 of a second quicker.
Now, Ted, Jason Moffat wants to know, hey guys, I thought the use of screens to block the garages was banned for testing this year.
Not when the driver has just had a little accident, or when they are about to take the floor off, the floor is off, or where they've just put the floor back on. So instead you get people with wide hips standing in the way of suspension changes, like it has. And that is the reason. Actually, I was just a thought on this. I think it has been accepted by the teams that is the right compromise. That the screens were just something that everybody was doing because everybody else was doing it. They weren't going to. Nobody was going to stop voluntarily and take the screens down, because why would they if everyone else was doing it? And it was one of those F1 things where they kind of needed saving from themselves a little bit. And once you take the screens down, it depressurizes the whole pit lane environment. It allows a stress-free environment. I'm not saying that it was a particularly stressful, but when screens went back, there was always a rush. Sometimes photographers would get in the way. In the past, when the screens were up, it was all a bit of a mess. And now we're doing live testing, and it's part of the show, and it's been so valuable not only to the viewers but also to the teams by seeing what everybody else is doing. I think as the quid pro quo with that, you're not going to have the screens, and so that's accepted.
Do you remember when Montoya turned up in F1 and he spent first sort of 5-6 races sitting on the steps outside the Williams hospitality room, and all the photographers got all the photos they needed of him and Connie, and then they sort of left them alone after that. The drivers that hide themselves away always get followed by a throng of photographers. But Juan had sort of figured out, right, if I sit here, then they'll get everything they need, and then they'll just leave me. Similar sort of thing, with the garages being constantly open. As you said, there isn't that immediate rush of photographers to get the shot of the car as it comes out of the garage.
Yeah. Are you saying that was a deliberate tactic by Montoya, or that was just the way it happened in the US? And
so he just thought he would be. Yeah.
I mean, that's true, and heaven knows there are enough time-saving and effort-saving things that drivers could do if they wanted to do that might make their life easier. For example, interviews at testing or interviews travelling to and from races. Jackie Stewart was always great at this, wasn't he? If there was somebody from a newspaper or a magazine who wanted 2 hours of his time, or nice shove. Very nice.
I mean, they're just innovating all over the place.
It's a hand-saving operation.
He knows he's on camera now.
If I need to use my hands, Andrew Shovlin, one of the chief engineers at Mercedes, if I need to use my hands for something else, I can just stick the phone in. It's like some of those motorcycle delivery drivers that you see have that phone stuck to their hands-free system. Anyway, if you have time travelling to a race. Sorry, we should do the end of Latifi's lap, seeing as he's gone green in both sectors.
He has.
On the yellow tyre. Comes round, still looking good. Knows he's not going to throw it off. DRS open, and that is improved up to... Well, it's not up to, is it? It's still P10. But up to a 19.0. Just for reference, Grosjean next up on 9th with a 18.7. So 0.3 of a second off. So just to finish the Jackie Stewart recommendation, if you've got a journalist who wants 3 hours of your time, why not invite him or her to Heathrow Airport or wherever to sit with you on a plane when you're going to, I don't know, Monaco or Nice or somewhere like that. It's not time that you're needing for yourself, if you're happy just to talk on a plane to somebody, and it's time efficiently used.
Yeah.
And isn't that, you wonder about drivers sitting, taking selfies themselves in hoodies saying, Barcelona, here I come, or taking pictures out of the plane window, the plane taking off and saying, it's race week or it's race day, or I'm coming for you, Monaco. You could spend that time more
Imagine
easily.
how many interviews all the teams could do on the way to Australia, and then we wouldn't need to bother them with interview requests when we get to Melbourne.
Yeah, maybe that's slightly long session to be talking to journalists. There are movies to catch up with.
Do you do that thing over the winter months of not watching movies, so you've got some to watch in the first couple of flyaways of the year?
Not really. I go and see stuff if I want to go and see it. Went to see 1917.
Any good?
Yes, very good, very good. A few more edits than I'd like. As someone who likes a one-shot wonder with The Notebook, which is a one-shot wonder,
yes,
it's always one shot. Once
it?
We start, we never stop, and it's got no edits in. The amount of edits in 1917 is just cheating, basically. It's not one shot at all.
Ted throwing shade.
It's not one shot at all.
Sam Mendes.
How many after six edits in that film? I stopped counting. Every time a tree comes through shot, it's an edit.
That's going to be on the movie poster, isn't it? 1917. It's no Ted's Notebook.
It's not more edits than a Notebook.
Interesting question here, and this is something I've seen a lot of people raising on social media.
Yeah.
And it's from Stephen van der Stack. Isn't Mercedes' toe wheel trick breaking the Parc Fermé rules when they change the toe? Because obviously when you go into Parc Fermé, when qualifying starts, you're not allowed to change the setup of the car, and that would include things such as toe, one would imagine, no? So if you can change the toe, are you not breaking Parc Fermé?
What's your tweeter's name?
Stephen,
email helmut.marco@redbullracing.com. Not his real email address, but it might be for all we know.
It might be.
And tell him, because I think that's worth investigating.
Isn't it? That's a really good point.
The more I think about it, the less ridiculous that sounds, actually.
And as we were saying this morning, if you can change the ride height of the car, is that anyway?
Whether they get any traction with the ride height thing will decide way beyond the Parc Fermé discussion, won't it? Because if they deem, and a lawyer can argue that in fact this thing does change the ride height, that is verboten.
So it's
and they'll get it banned on that. Red Bull or Ferrari would get it banned on that basis.
The tweet was from Stephen van der Stack. Yes,
Stephen.
So to repeat it, isn't Mercedes' toe wheel trick breaking the Parc Fermé rules when they change the toe? Just to repeat that. It's a really good question.
And Parc Fermé starts at the beginning of qualifying.
Beginning of quali.
So they couldn't use it in qualifying.
Well, that's the thing. If they use it in quali, are they breaking Parc Fermé rules?
The Parc Fermé finishes once the race starts.
So they could use it during the race, but not during qualifying.
Any more?
That's a great question.
I'm not sure that they would accept that the system changes the setup of the car. Everyone else probably would, because if you're changing the toe, you are changing the setup of the car. But I think they would probably find a way of saying that doesn't.
Remains to be seen, doesn't it?
Hello, Jolyon Palmer.
Hello, Joe. Hi, guys. How are we doing? Very good. How are you?
Not bad. Not bad. We're just digesting the slight Vettel disappointment, power unit problem, engine problem. So that's it for him for the morning. They're going to change the power unit, and he's going to get back out in the afternoon. So Sebastian also talking yesterday about his illness, his fever that he had. He said he had it earlier on in the week. He thought he got rid of it, and then it came back. And he felt a bit sick and a bit feverish and a bit sweaty. Nobody asked him if he had to self-isolate, which is probably good. So
it was a fever-like symptom.
Well, it was a fever-like fever, like a flu-type fever. Flu.
Yeah.
He said the word.
Fever-like fever.
He said flu. He said I had a bit of flu, a bit of a fever. Last week, I thought I got it, but then it came back on the first day, so I didn't drive.
Is he allowed in the McLaren hospitality?
Well, if he's not self-isolating, then probably yes.
I don't think that's the thing with the McLaren hospitality, whether you're self-isolating it.
I don't think it matters. It's only if you've been to China within the last 14 days.
Well, and then 14 days elapsed, then you can go into the McLaren hospitality.
Yes.
You're still fine.
As we said,
What if you've got a cold?
it doesn't matter the fact that Frankie's sitting in the media centre and we're all sitting with him and then going in and out of the McLaren hospitality unit. We put our hands up.
What do you make
how
of-
are you getting to Australia?
Are you going by
via
train?
Singapore.
Singapore?
Singapore.
Okay. You going to Australia?
Yeah, I haven't worked it out yet, but probably Dubai.
Okay. I'm Taiwan.
Are you? What airline are you taking to Taiwan?
China Airlines.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Went to Taiwan a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Lovely place.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Stopped off between Malaysia and Japan.
Okay. I've never tried it. I mean, you know, Taipei, apparently Taiwan Airport. Taiwan Airport. Not Taiwan, it's the name of the airport. It's like Heathrow. Apparently is great, and their new A350 planes. So I thought I'd give it a shot. Anyway, it's
Nice.
that's not on the list, I believe, to connections that are banned into Australia. I think it's okay.
This is a nice question.
You look very worried as you're saying that.
Well, it's
I've
only
not
mainland.
consulted this.
They extended the ban, didn't they, Australia? If you're even if you're
Yes.
connecting through Shanghai, by the time you get to,
Well, it's like Cathay have
Melbourne.
cancelled a lot of flights as well, connecting through Hong Kong.
I think Hong Kong's still okay actually. As far as whether Australia's
Well, I
going
was
let you
due
through
to
the
be
door.
flying via Hong Kong on Cathay, and they cancelled our flight.
Oh right.
So,
Right. Sorry. Should we
Gang.
get back to
Brian Jones Bolton. Ted, do you think McLaren will fight for podiums? I think we could all have a stab at answering that.
Yes, absolutely. On a day when the top three have a little issue, and the pink Mercedes
And the big Mercedes have an
are
issue.
fighting with them as well. No, I don't think they're going to be. I mean, have we seen anything that suggests? I mean, Stroll went out there today, didn't he? He's done 17.4. What's the fastest that Perez did? 16.
Perez has been top 2, top 3 for the first 2 days of testing. He's looking very good.
Yeah, 17.3 Perez did yesterday.
17.3.
Yeah, Kimi topped down at 17.0.
So
They're there or thereabouts, aren't they?
yeah, they're there or thereabouts. So yes, absolutely. And see, there you see some of that inside graining on that Renault, the inside shoulder. That's kind of one of the things that might have sparked the toe theory at Mercedes. You're looking at the graining pattern of a tyre. You're thinking, okay, well, that's because we're running this toe, can't really get round it. If there's a way just to change that toe a bit, sort out that graining, that might be another benefit.
I would have thought that comes more from the camber than the toe. The graining, just more the inside edge of the tyre. So I had a thought as I left the commentary box earlier that when we saw Valtteri Bottas use the DAS earlier on, it was just before he hit the brakes for turn 1, and he just used it for a second, put it back for a second. Is there any merit in, let's say Carlos Sainz right now, we're on board with him, if he just goes bam, bam on the trombone DAS, might that put just a few degrees of tyre temp in changing the toe angle with a marginal bit of scrub? Presumably when you're changing that
Well, it just gets the front end to stick a little bit more into the corner.
and you just simply build up a couple of degrees of tyre temp, purely that, in change, because he just changed it twice, and it was very cold early in the morning.
Yeah.
At the end of a long straight, when you're on these long straights, the tyre temperatures are cooling all the time. The drivers in qualifying perennially have an issue with keeping the rear tyres very cool, which you need for the final sector, and getting the front tyres up to temperature for the first sector. So, I don't know enough about what that would do to the tyre temperatures in terms of when you do change this toe. There might be some sort of scrub effect.
I think Mercedes are still
Two green
experimenting
sectors.
with it, aren't they? They're still trying to figure out how best to use it.
Yeah, maybe it was just a strange place for Bottas to be using it right before the braking zone for turn 1. So now Sainz comes out of this final corner on a cold day. All those tyre temperatures are just going to be cooling all the way down to turn 1.
And moves up 1 from 8th to 7th in the order for today with a 118.275 4. 0.05 of a second behind Giovinazzi.
It's a really interesting question, though. It's if putting it back into that position gave it that hit, if you just needed to pull it back, push it in, get a couple of degrees in, make the front end stick to go in, so you've got that bite when you turn into the corner. That's a fascinating
and potentially, I mean, why do drivers weep? To build up some front tyre temperature, but when you do that, you're putting temperature through the rears as well. You're putting lateral load in. If there was any merit in building up a tiny bit of tyre temperature purely in the front tyres by using the DAS and minusculely changing the angle, but at 180 mile an hour, Mike, that's not going to affect the rears in the slightest, but the fronts are getting a tiny little scrub just moments before you hit the brakes, which would potentially increase front temps by a couple of degrees, which will prevent front lock and give you a bit more bite into the corner in the area, turn 1 qualifying in a chilly day, that you need the front temps.
Definitely, and that is one of the benefits, one of the 2 or 3 benefits that we can see at this point, and heaven knows Mercedes must think there are 4 or 5 in this wide range of benefits of how you're using this variable tow system operated by the steering wheel, trombone steering wheel, or the DAS. One of the wide range of operational uses. That as the season goes on, they think, oh, I know, maybe we could do a bit of DAS action on this. We can do this and that, and and make it work.
Use it as a plaster for some things that come up, and be like, I tell you what, that could be fixed maybe by the DAS, but it might be a number of different issues that I still think the difference it will make to each individual thing will be so minimal, but maybe a lot of minimal gains, and they obviously think it's worthwhile to have on the car. It's interesting.
Now, this was something that Alex and I were discussing earlier, and it's quite an interesting talking point for this last day of the test. Ted and Jolyon, the war of words that's emerging between Racing Point and Haas. Haas, of course, who have taken a lot of influence from Ferrari. Racing Point still believe that there's something untoward between Ferrari and Haas in their relationship and the amount of potential information flow between the two teams. Haas, meanwhile, becoming quite vocal about what they believe is intrinsically a Mercedes painted pink down at Racing Point.